have you ever, experienced like, holding your breath till you pass out? I said, why would I do that? He goes, well, I do that with a lot of the athletes I train to show that it was kind of like the Mahalik thing. How bad do you want that breath?
Right.
How much can you push your body?
Right.
Will you push it to death? Because that's the only way you're going to be the best. I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution. Welcome back to another edition of Rips and Rants. I'm Dave Palumbo, joined by John Romano as always. And John, you just got back from a very, very, I'm kind of jealous a little bit of a really nice vacation.
Yeah, we went to Peru for 10 days. It was an incredible trip. The impetus for the trip was my wife's grandmother's 90th birthday. So
cool.
That's what got us there. And we figured, while we're there, we might as well, take in the sights. Machu Picchu has always been on my bucket list.
Absolutely.
So, it was just a phenomenal trip for a lot of reasons. The main one was because her family was just so unbelievably great. I mean, just the warmest, most welcoming, awesome, nicest people you could ever imagine meeting. They were just tremendous.
They're not Americans, that's why.
Yeah, exactly. yeah. The whole thing, but being able to go there and travel around I hate going to places as a tourist, and it's so much better when you go. Oh yeah, there's now those things. I forgot what that thing is called, but the purpose of that's not Machu Picchu. That's another place along the way in the Sacred Valley. The reason for the terracing, it was agricultural. It was pretty ingenious. Right. They weren't able to get certain plants to grow up in the mountains. So what they did was they found this valley and they terraced it like that, which was an insane amount of work.
Right. And what did that do for the crops?
Right. So they would each season they would raise them another terrace. So each terrace represented 100 meters of altitude. So by the time the plant got from the bottom to the top, it was ready. You could move it to the top of the mountain and it would grow.
I didn't even think it doesn't even look like it's that much of a difference, the levels, but I guess it's perspective.
Each step is 10 meters. 30 feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you climb up that lip?
You can. They don't. There's these things called floating stairs, which are these rocks that stick out from them, and there's one of them you're allowed to use. The rest of it, UNESCO has got this all locked up as tight as can be. This was really cool. This was called Panchumachu or something like that, Panchumancha or something. This is a farm, a local farm, local people, and the meat was alpaca, pork. Chicken was all grown on their property along with the potatoes and the other vegetables. And what they do is they dig a hole and they put rocks in it and they build a fire over the rocks. And then that heats the rocks up. Then they wipe the fire away. Then they put down the chicken and the meat and the vegetables. And then they cover it with all this herbs and grass, stuff. And then burlap bags on top of that and dirt. And they leave it buried in the ground like that for a few hours, and then they dig it all up, and that's what you get. It was incredible.
The dirt.
There was no dirt. There wasn't even a speck of dust on anything. They did a great job.
It's the dirt. Yeah. I don't understand that. Like, why do they pack it with dirt?
They hold the heat in. It's like an
Oh,
oven. They make like an oven in the ground.
I see. I see.
Yeah, so
It's funny. The reason I'm laughing is because there's it looks like there's 90 people going to be served all that food. You know,
it was insane. There was only 4 of us.
I know.
Us and the 2 guides, the driver. And
The Italians and the South Americans have a lot in
it
common.
was there. You got to zoom in and see that shit. There was a ton. What I think they do is they the family eats it afterwards. You know,
Oh, okay.
kind of thing. I mean, it was a large.
Is that a restaurant you were at?
No, it's somebody's back porch. This is like we're the only ones there. This is a legit, family that just lives on the side of and in a farm. And they sell this experience, for whatever. And it's something that it's
eat this meal.
It's Andean. It's Andean unique Andean food, method of cooking.
What did this cost you? Like with this meal?
I was like $30.
Both of you.
Yeah, it was dirt cheap. It was ridiculous. Yeah. So
what's that?
That is we're in Machu Picchu there. So that's more terracing in Machu Picchu. But the thing about Machu Picchu is that there is evidence of other civilizations having used the site for I don't know what, but you can see the stonework. There's 3 different styles of stonework, one demonstratively better than the rest. And that is the oldest. So whatever they ended up using that for agriculturally or whatever, it's obvious that they stumbled upon it. It had already been there.
Right.
So they just added on top of it.
The question Jimmy the Bull wants to know is when you flush the toilet, does it go the opposite direction?
No, it didn't. It's like the first thing I did. We got there, I'd flushed the toilet and it's going the same way. And I'm going, what the fuck? We're supposed to go, it's supposed to be the other way. But no, it didn't do that. And everywhere. Valerie's aunt's house, the hotel.
Oh, you tested in several places. I got you. Is that the Jolly Green Giants house there? What is that?
Well, there's a whole thing with doors. Okay, that's in Cusco. No, that's in Urubamba. No, wait, Cusco. Yeah, I think that was Cusco. All the doors are painted either blue, green, or red, and they have a cultural significance. Each one, right. But the green it's usually a darker green than that. The green is typically on churches. So all the church doors are green. I don't know the reason why, but that's pretty much what you get. And just the level of construction, the stonework there was just astonishing. It was like the most incredible, amount. The sheer magnitude of the amount of it is staggering. Yeah. How much was made out of stone. Yeah.
Well, no hurricane.
So now the doors are blue. See.
Yeah, I liked it. That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, it is, and especially when you're up in the Andes.
Really old. Right?
It's all like bright. The colors are really bright, and
I was gonna say it looked like they just put a fresh coat of paint on there.
Yeah, everything was just very vibrant, clean.
What's that?
That is that's in Cusco. That's in the church square in the downtown Cusco.
Crazy.
Yeah. That was in Aguascalientes. That was in the base of where you go up to the Machu Picchu.
Oh. Is it very touristy?
Yeah, it's not touristy in the sense that it's annoying, but it's a tourist destination. That there is where all the salt comes from. This salty water comes out of the ground, and then they divert it to all these little pools that fill up and then evaporate, and then they scrape up all the salt, and that's how.
Oh, that's where they get salt from.
Yeah, and that's way high up in the Andes. I think that's the highest. I think that's one of the highest salt mines in altitude in the world. Wow. There,
do they provide salt to a lot of people, or is that just for the country?
All over, they export it. Yeah, everywhere. It's time. I mean, there's an amazing amount comes out of there. It's deceiving how big that is.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's sounds like it was a fun trip. How long were you there? 2 weeks?
10 days.
That was relaxing. How was
it? It was not relaxing at all, and I'll tell you why. Because, for whatever reason, Valerie and I started on this Andy Frisella's 75 hard.
And you're still doing it while you're on vacation?
Yeah. So we didn't the reason we started it was that one of her employees would, she's trying to help lose weight and whatever, suggested maybe we'll do it, and we'll do it. We didn't want to do it. She wanted to do it. Then we decided to do it. Will you do it with me? If she's doing it, I'm going to do it. And then through all of that, nobody bothered to look at the trip to Peru and count backwards and say, So we literally spent days 65 through 75 in Peru, which meant we had to freaking work out twice a day for a minimum of 45 minutes. One of them had to be outside, and along with guzzling the water and reading the book and, all and figuring out how to stick all this shit. It just made the trip more difficult, and it made the program more difficult. And
how'd you do it on the day you flew?
It was we got up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, you guys
in the rain. We didn't. It was raining, and we did it.
I'm pretty crazy, but I don't know if I would have done it.
But the thing is, probably this kind of great segues into the the subject matter of the show here is that if you read about this, you read the number of people that fail at this. Okay. And it's a simple little task. It's 2 workouts a day for a minimum of 45 minutes. One of them has to be outside. You have to drink a gallon of water a day, no alcohol, read 10 pages of a nonfiction book, not a Kindle, but a book, and take a progress picture. And that's it. Okay. So the amount of people that fail, if you screw up any of those, if you forget the picture, if you don't drink enough water, whatever, you got to start all over again at day one. Having readied ourselves for bodybuilding contests, while this is not technically a physique challenge, it's a mental challenge. So is bodybuilding. Okay, it's both.
Yeah.
It's as much of a mental challenge, if not more, than a physique challenge. The bottom line is, if you've ever gotten ready for a bodybuilding show, you can breeze through 75 hard. It's fucking easy from that perspective. But there's an awful lot of people who can't do it. And, we deal with clients who are, struggling to, compete in bodybuilding contests. They can't get ripped. There's something wrong. We're trying to figure out if they're lying, if they're cheating, if there's something wrong with them, if their levels of whatever are off, and it's because it's a big task to get ready for a bodybuilding show. Right. It's no joke. It's one of the hardest fucking things in the world to do. Yeah. Okay. So if you start off with something easier, like 75 hard, going through that, there is no way I can comprehend how someone could fail at that. And it's just not, it's up here, man. You got to be able to program yourself to do the work, right?
Don't like to suffer. Yeah. They don't want to be told what to do. They're not organized. And that's why people fail at everything they do, not just bodybuilding, but life. If you're not organized and you cannot repetitively do the same thing day after day, you will never be successful at anything, because in order to be very successful, you have to become a master of what you're doing, right? And they say, what do they say? It takes 10 years to become a master. Right. Who can do anything in today's society for 10 years straight? We've been doing this show for over 10 years straight. I mean, we've mastered this, obviously, but I'm talking about the average person. I have so many routines. I've talked about this before with Chris. I have so many routines on a daily basis that I do already, that adding those other routines would be a pain in my ass. But I mean, like you said, it would be a breeze for me if I put my mind to it, because it's not a big deal. But for most people, they just don't want to suffer, and they will find any excuse. How many people have you worked with? And I obviously have worked with a lot more people than you, but you've worked with plenty of people to know that, oh, I got a cold and I missed 4 days from the gym. I'm like, for a cold?
For a cold?
You didn't even have a fever? Shame on you for missing 1 day, I said.
I like to understand how they have the gall to not only come up with the excuse, but actually have the balls to say it.
Because they have to, because they know that I'm looking at their updates, and they know that they look look worse than the last update. So they got to have an excuse, and look, I'm not a female, and I know a lot of women do get their period, but I'm telling you, I work with some women that seem they either they're getting their periods, their PMS, they just had their period, or they have their period. So that pretty much covers every single day of the month.
No, you get about 3.5 bad weeks out of the month. So they have like, 7, they have like 4 or 5 good days, And
I work with a lot of women, and most of them do not ever complain. Once in a while, they'll say, I might today I might be a little bloated because I just got my period, but very rarely do I hear them complain any other day of the month. So, but there are people that are just complainers, they will use that as an excuse.
Well, I don't know about you. I don't know how your method exactly works, but I have a very candid and blunt conversation with my clients in the inception of whether or not we're even going to go ahead and build this relationship, right? And my expectations are laid out in front of them. And I'm going to tell you point blank, I've done this enough times to know that if I tell you to do A and B, I'm going to get C out of the other end. Right. If I don't get C out of the other end, it's because you fucked up. You cheated, you lied, you didn't do something right, you did something, you didn't understand something, whatever. It's on you because the system works. Humans can't be that different that in such a way that a diet won't the diet won't work. You know what I mean? It's just not possible. Okay?
Yeah, you know what? And I'll make an exception to that rule because I always thought that too. There are a few people that sometimes their metabolisms do get stuck.
But they're like
you can tell because they get the sucked out face and they're not losing weight, which means that they're not cheating. And maybe I need to kind of like I'll do the opposite of what logic would say. I'll give them less cardio, more food, and that kickstarts their body again. But like you said, the 99% of the population, if they're not losing weight, it's because they're cheating, or they're doing something that they're not aware of. Like some people use condiments that they don't really realize that they're not good, and it's just because they haven't been doing this long enough to know. But I catch everything because I know every question to ask at this point.
But even that 1%. Even that 1%, that if you do this, and that, it'll fix it.
If you get pictures from someone and they say they're following it exactly, and their blood work is good, and they tested their supplements, and that shouldn't even really matter because you should be able to lose weight whether you take PEDs or not.
Absolutely.
And they send you a picture, and their face is bloated like this, and their stomach is bloated, and their feet are bloated. They're not following the diet, okay? Unless they have like something wrong with their heart or something like that, or their kidneys are not functioning. But that's usually not the case. So, I know when people are cheating. When I see a person's face all sucked out and they're not losing weight, then I know maybe metabolically we're stuck. So, but there's a lot of people that are cheating, and then there's people that are afraid to tell you because I guess sometimes you and I can maybe come off as being intimidating, so they're afraid, they don't want to tell you that they have like an eating disorder or something like that. But I always I know when people have eating disorders. I know the behavior and stuff like that, and I try to be honest. I said, look, if there's something wrong, I want to help you. So if you don't come clean and tell me what's going on, then I can't help you, And so I'm not your adversary here. I'm like your lawyer, and I'm trying to get you out of prison, So you got to kind of share everything that's going on with me, so I don't get caught by surprise and can't figure out what's going on,
But they create the adversary in us. Right, because
they want to hide it from you because they're embarrassed. Some people.
So I had this one client. Okay, I would. This has been like it was the longest. It was years long, the relationship. Okay, and it was a constant cycle of they do really well for 2 or 3 weeks and then gain weight back, and then tell me that, oh, I had to go to Mars and the rocket was late and there was nothing but Cheetos that I had to eat those for 4 months. It's one of these fucking excuses that comes out of
what? I'll never forget this.
But my thing is, how you hired me because you know what I do. You know who I am. I'm out there. I'm a public figure. Why would you do that and then come to me with the fucking Cheetos excuse?
I used to go to auditions all the time in the 90s I would take the Long Island Railroad and go to Penn Station, get off Penn Station, and take a cab or walk to the audition, get back to Penn Station, and sometimes you get caught up and I would be dieting for a show, and maybe I didn't bring enough food, and I ran out. I don't have any meals, and I got stuck in Penn Station. And they have some fast food places in there. It's not the health capital of the world in there. And you know what? I would buy McDonald's hamburgers plain, and I would just throw the buns in the garbage and just eat the meat, just so that I have protein. So I can, all right, I bridged it over until I can get home, and eat my next meal. But there's no excuse. You can eat healthy in any restaurant whatsoever. There's absolutely not a single place. I've been in airports too where they had nothing, and I would just pick pieces of chicken off of a chicken salad, or there's always something you can eat.
I just climbed Machu Picchu and stayed on my fucking diet. Okay, so I mean, it's like, are you going to do it or are you not going to do it? That is it. You got to. I always tell these people, you have to distill the choice down to somehow a black and white situation. You got to eliminate the gray. Okay, it's either yes or no. I'm going to eat this or I'm not going to eat it. All right. I'm going to do the cardio or I'm not going to do the cardio. It's black and white. Yeah. And you have to make the choice. And it's like, make the choice, but then don't come to me with some fucking weird Cheeto excuse that you made the wrong choice. That's,
what? I caught this. I used to help this guy, and I'm friends with him still to this day. And I'll use his name because he won't care. He'll get a kick out of it. Gerald Green, his name was, and he trained at Bev's. There's no one who knows more of the bodybuilding gossip and everything that's going on in the industry than Gerald Green. Dave, did you hear about Jay Cutler? He knew everything, and he loved it. He loved the whole lifestyle and eating the food and training, and he was always at the gym. And so I used to do his diet for him, and everyone would make fun of him all the time because he never came in shape. I said, Gerald, just once. I said, you got good genetics. I said, he did have good shape. He just was always so overweight in the off season. He'd have to lose like 80 pounds, And I caught him at Bev's in the front desk. He would eat his meal after like his workout. I'm like, that meal's taking a long time for him to eat. So I go over to the thing. I look in the Tupperware, and I'm like, how many meals is that in that Tupperware? He goes, one meal. I said, one meal. There's got to be 16 ounces of chicken in there. I said, at least. He's like, oh. I said, you weigh it out? He goes, I eyeballed it. I said, Gerald, there's no way you're eating that. You're supposed to be eating like 5 or 6 ounces of chicken. That's 3 times what you should be eating. I said, listen, these people are torturing you. They make fun of you. I said, do me a favor. Just dedicate yourself for the next 8 weeks to exactly what I told you to do. Right. Please. I begged him. And you know what? He did it. He actually wound up placing 5th at the USA Championships.
No shit.
Top 5. And that's when it was really tough, John. I mean, there was a fucking stacked lineup of name guys.
Wow.
And I'm like, because he looked good, because he had a good physique. And he still could have been a little harder, but he had a lot of muscle on his body. Wow. And I said, do you see, he was shut everyone up at the gym forever. Of course, he never got in shape after that again, but that's another story. But he was able to do it. Some people just have a lot of trouble dieting because the food is like an emotional crutch for them. Mm-hmm. And when food becomes an emotional crutch for you, and it's not just a tool, it's very hard because when you're stressed out, when you feel depressed, when things are not going well in your life, you eat. And when you're dieting and you're suffering, and that's the first thing to give, and then so I understand, but if you're not mentally tough during that diet period, you're never going to be a good bodybuilder because it does require suffering. It hurts. It actually hurts, the diet.
And you can't explain that. No. You cannot. I have tried, and I know other guys who've tried. I know you tried. Yeah. In order to close a deal, okay, and this goes for anything from sales to dating to anything, you have to share the perception. Okay, you have a perception. Yeah. You have to share that with me so that I see what you see and vice versa. If you don't do that, that's where the trouble comes in. Okay, so my perception of suffering is based on the fact that I have gotten to the end of the road. Yours, the same way, your perception of suffering is you've gotten to the end of the road. You've completed the task. You've done it. The other people, our clients that have never done it, they do not understand the level of, it's not just the commitment, it's the commitment to suffer. And the amount of suffering is something that you have no concept of unless you've done it.
Yeah.
And for us to sit here and tell you it's hard, that is not registering, because it's so fucking hard that no matter how hard I tell you it is, it's not enough to adequately share the perception of how hard it is.
I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to talk to people. I didn't want to pick. I didn't want to even talk on the phone after like the last couple of weeks. I wanted to be left alone. And to be honest with you, I don't know how people have regular jobs and do contest diets. I really don't. I mean, because it's not fun. I mean, there's no way you can possibly be in a good mood where you can interact with people. Some people, and I'm pretty good. You know, I'm not like one of these like grumpy, you know, angry guys on a regular basis. But when I would get down to that last 3 weeks, I didn't want to do anything beyond training, tanning, whatever I had on my, you know, the itinerary and the diet.
So, you know, it comes down to us understanding and knowing that. Okay.
Yeah.
And now we're in the business of helping others do that. The ones that have never done it are up against a great unknown. And it gets frustrating to me, because I try to explain it. I try to tell them, you know, and create these different scenarios, you know, being stuck on a deserted island, or, you know,
jail. You could be in jail, right? I said, what if you were in jail? You know?
Right, being jail, lost in the woods. I mean, you know, so any kind of, you know, earth-shattering experience is on par with getting ready for a bodybuilding show.
You know what, John? You said it perfectly. Most people have never suffered. They never had anything like that to compare it to. You know, they don't have any experience in giving up anything, like where they had to suffer. And it doesn't have to be bodybuilding and diet related. I'm just talking about on a regular basis, like where they're in a position where, you know, I remember when I would play soccer, I mean, they would make us do these insane drills,
right?
You know, just to test it. I think to test our mettle, to see how, you know, tough we can do it. And as soon as I knew they were testing us, you know, that made me work harder, because I didn't want to give up. I didn't want to be one of those kids who were puking on the sidelines, or that, you know, couldn't make it through the drills. You know, I was determined to go, but that's my mentality. So, you know,
but that's got to be your mentality. I remember I used to wake up in the middle of the night often during, you know, the end of the diet, the last, you know, whatever weeks. I woke up from the pain of being hungry. The hunger pain woke me up. My stomach's going, and you know, I'm laying there like, what the fuck am I going to do? And I'm dead tired. I got to sleep. I'm so hungry, I can't sleep. You know, you've been there. I mean, but you got to try. You explain that to somebody. Oh, so hungry, I can't sleep. They can't imagine that. You know, especially people that fall asleep on the couch after a meal. Are you kidding me?
And most people, John, don't even get to that point where they're that lean. You know, they cave way before that. So I can understand when you have zero body fat, like, and you're operating on fumes. But people can't even get through the first, you know, 6 weeks of the diet, which is the easy part, really. I mean,
and my favorite one, one of my favorite ones is, why did you eat that? I was getting shaky. I was getting low blood sugar. thought I was going to go into a coma. Did you take insulin? No, I don't use. No, you don't use insulin. Then you're not going into a fucking coma. You know,
they got low blood sugar, and I'm like, did you test your blood sugar? And they didn't. And you know, and they ate, like, you know, everything in the refrigerator. And I said, if it happens again, test your blood sugar before you eat anything. And you know what? The next time it happened, like maybe a couple of days later, they tested their blood sugar, and they weren't even low.
No.
And when they realized they weren't low, all of a sudden the fear went away, and they actually weren't that. And they said, you know, I really wasn't that hungry anymore. So sometimes you can convince yourself you're hypo because you really want to eat, you know?
Well, that's a good point. Fear, you know, especially for guys. I didn't run into this too much with women, but with guys are deathly afraid of losing size.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to lose muscle. I go, you gotta try to put that in a perspective. If you ever cut open a prime rib, you see this big glob of fat in the middle. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
All right. If you take that glob of fat out and push the meat back together, what happens? It's a smaller piece of meat, right? So you didn't lose any muscle, you just lost the fat out of the middle of it. So you got these guys walking around like this, and then like busting at the seams, and you're like, okay, we're gonna, start whittling that down. And once there's subcutaneous fat, intramuscular fat, there's no preference. The body just burns fat, and so as you lose the fat in the muscle, your muscle's going to get smaller. So,
to a certain degree,
to it, absolutely. And then so I say, well, did you get weaker? No, I'm still doing whatever. I go, so if you're not getting weaker, how do you justify the statement that you're losing muscle? Because I'm getting smaller.
The people who say I'm losing muscle and they're not even losing any weight on the scale. I'm like, well, where's the muscle coming from? The scale hasn't moved. I said,
no, they're trading fat for that. I had that guy tell me that one time.
No, they're gaining fat and they're losing muscle. Come on, no one's doing
reapportioning. It was what he called it.
You can go the other direction. You can gain muscle, lose fat, but no one's gaining fat on a diet and losing muscle.
Fat and losing muscle.
So I get those things. So a lot of times that calms people down right away. And I'm like, all right, look, you think you're losing muscle, but you haven't lost weight in 3 weeks. So obviously that's obviously in your head. And when they realize that does not compute thing going on, they like, oh yeah, you're right. I said, you're flat. When people are dieting, they're glycogen depleted. So that obviously is makes them feel like, they've lost muscle because they don't look as good. But, it's the dreaded, I call flat and fat stage you go through, where you're still kind of fat, but you're flat at the same time. And that makes you look worse than when you're full and fat,
And the skin's loose.
Well, yeah, of course,
because that takes a while to catch up, right? And the older the people are, something like in me, it doesn't catch up. I look like a fucking sock puppet. But you got the thing is, the other thing is the perceived immediate response to no food. Okay. So sometimes I do the Bob Gruskin thing, the bomb, where you like, okay, you're eating 12 calories today for the next 4 days. I'm like taking everything away because I got to see if it's one way or the other. And the only way is to test the extremes. So you're not eating you're eating like one meal. And then, and the fear that comes over them is unbelievable. They think they're going to undo 12 years of bodybuilding in 2 days of calorie deficit. That it's all going to go away. You really think that, So you brought up the Auschwitz, example. There was nobody fat at Auschwitz, okay, but they didn't turn into skeletons overnight. It was a process. So I promise you, if you eat really low calories for the next 3 days, you're not going to disappear. If they miss their shot. Okay, if they don't take their shot,
I know.
Oh my God, what's going to happen?
That's a psychological thing. But you know what the funny thing is, and I explain, and it's very hard to explain to people. In order to gain muscle, gain weight, off season, you have to eat an exorbitant amount of food above what your baseline maintenance would be, right? But to lose weight, you have to eat a lot less food than your maintenance.
Right.
And those two dichotomies are very, very far apart. A lot of food, little food. So when you go from off season, people think you're going to take them down. Like, instead of eating, 8 ounces of food, maybe you'll eat 8 ounces of protein, maybe you'll eat 7 ounces of protein. And instead of, eating, 400 grams of carbs, you're going to eat 300 grams of carbs. But if you do that little drop, you don't lose any weight. You go to your maintenance level. So you have to go. So when I start a person on a diet, they go from a lot of food to what seems like a smaller amount of food, like a lot smaller, and they get panicky because they're like, well, I was eating all this food, now I'm only eating this. I said, try. First of all, with the people that can't handle it psychologically, I'll give them more food, and then of course they don't lose weight for 3 weeks, and then I have to take it down anyway. But the people who trust me, I take it down, and they'll lose that 15 pounds the first 2 weeks because of water weight, and then they don't lose anything, and then it goes down to the normal, like 1 to 2 pounds, 3 pounds a week. So but people can't wrap their head around the fact that they can eat such less food yet not lose muscle. But you don't understand, and the body has a set point. It likes to be what it's at, and to make it get bigger, you have to eat a lot more, and to make it get smaller, you have to eat a lot less.
Right.
And so that's another thing. People just get panicky because they think they need a lot of food. And I remember when I was dieting, my friend Doug Wentz was helping me. He was a Gruskin guy, and he would look at me every day at the gym after we would train, and he's like, and I was lean. You know me. I'm always lean. I was really lean. And I'm like, he's like, he goes, are you eating anything? Are you eating extra food? I said, well, I have a seventh meal. I usually just do a whey shake at night. He goes, for what? I said, well, I don't want to lose the old, I don't want to lose muscle thing. And, I have a fast metabolism. He's like, you don't need that much food. Bob always says, you guys eat too much. Yep. Stop that shake. I stopped it. Of course, my hunger went through the roof after that. But sure enough, the next couple of days, he's like, well, it worked because all of a sudden my middle back came in and all that little detail came in. So you could eat too much good food too. And I think people think, well, if I'm only eating protein, I'm not eating carbs, I can get away with a little extra. But if you eat extra food, you just won't lose weight. You're not going to get fat from it. You're just not going to lose weight. You're not going to lose any more body fat, The body will use that.
What I believe, okay,
yeah,
is that there is a disconnect between what people perceive muscle is and does, and versus what causes your body to grow it. And really, there's only one reason. There's only one reason why your body will build muscle. There's only one. There's no other reason. It doesn't care that you want 22-inch arms. It doesn't care that you want to compete. It doesn't care about any of that shit. There's only one reason why your body will build muscle. It is an adaptive response to stress, i.e., a survival mechanism, which means the closer you push yourself to death, the better the response will be for your body to compensate and adapt and build muscle. So your job in the gym, if you want to build muscle, is to convince your body that it needs it. Now, how are you going to do that? You got to suffer. You have to push yourself to throw up stage, to failure, to where you can't. The closer you get to failing, the actual act of failing is the impetus, the signal that your body needs to grow muscle. There's no other reason. So unless you're I mean,
you hit the head on the nail. I mean, most people just don't train hard enough.
Right. They don't train.
We're not talking about volume. We're talking about intensity.
Exactly. And you can't explain that to anyone. Mike Menser used to tell you, the king of intensity. He used to say, he was putting me through a set of bicep curls on a Nautilus machine one time. And it was like a 5-minute long set. I was ready to just die right there. Right. And at the last bit, I'm yanking on the thing and he's pulling it back the other way. And he's, come on, like, come finish the rep. And I'm like, I can't, my fucking arm won't move. And he goes, I'm going to pull out a gun and blow your brains all over the wall behind you if you don't do another rep. And I did it. I mean, it's in there. Everybody's got their little, shtick to, mentally convince yourself.
Right. There's two ways I always felt to increase intensity. One would be, he believed in this like one set, and then do drop sets and forced reps and everything like that. Negative. Some people respond very well to that. And they can generate that intensity like that. Some people, their bodies don't. I don't respond that well to that. But what I do respond better to is, and which is one of his principles, is way less volume. Okay, super high intensity. So in other words, I could do a set with a lot more weight because I don't have to do as much volume, and with a full range of motion. And if I have a spotter, helping me, pushing me through like the last couple reps until I know that I have failed. Okay. Because you only you can know if you failed. And because if I'm bench pressing and I know that I'm going to have to start rolling my shoulders forward to push the weight up because my pecs just can't contract anymore, I'm done. The set's over. Right. So for me, if you make me start doing too many reps, all right, let's drop the weight again. I probably wouldn't benefit from that, but not many people can take themselves to the place of failure, whereas I was able to. So, a lot of people have to just I think what Mentor did with a lot of the clients was prove to them via his methods that they could go to that place that they thought they weren't capable of going to. And once you can go to that place of suffering, you can then implement it on yourself.
Right. His thing was you have to, it's not fatigue.
You got to experience it.
Right.
Yes. You got to experience it.
Most people stop when they're fatigued, not when they've failed.
I haven't told too many people this story, but when I was 18, so my mother had passed away when I was 15. So this was like 3 years later. I just graduated high school. My father decided he was going to take my sister and I to the Catskill Mountains. They had a singles weekend, like at the end of the summer, where, supposedly he's going to meet some single woman who has kids too, like him. Right. And so it was really for his purpose, but, he wanted to take us away, because we hadn't really gone on a vacation. So he took my sister and I to the Catskill Mountains to the Browns Hotel. I think my friend and his single mother went to, or something like that. And, for us, it was like a sports. It was like a sports. The whole Catskills. You stuff your face with food. There's swimming. There's all kinds of events and stuff like that. You don't see your parents the whole weekend. My father's off. Anyway, so I look like a rock climber at this point. I was a runner. Okay, so I didn't train my legs with weights, but I trained my upper body with weights because I was into the whole, wanted to be, like Rambo, basically.
Right.
And so I was running around the whole weekend there with basically no shirt on, playing softball. And, I was shredded. I was ripped. I wasn't big, but I was probably about 160 pounds, 165 pounds. Maybe. Which is, but I had no body fat. So there was a guy there who I could tell, it was weird. He was like watching me and like, and the whole weekend I kept seeing him, and then he kind of disappeared. And then he came back and he's like, I got to talk to you. I'm a bodybuilding trainer. To this day, I don't know who the guy is. I wish I would. He gave me his card, but I lost it along the way. And he said, he goes, you have, I don't know why, my family, we went to another hotel and I had to come back here because it was bothering me to see you. And I wanted to just ask you, you want to be a bodybuilder or a runner? I told him, I said, well, I'm running now. I got a little partial scholarship running in college. And I said, but, I really like weight training. He goes, well, if you want to be a bodybuilder, you're going to have to take steroids. I said, well, I would never do that. That was like, I didn't know anything about steroids. It just, the whole word steroid scared me. I'm like, no. Well, then if you're going to be a good runner, you're going to have to lose weight. I said, what do you mean lose weight? He goes, you're too heavy to be a long distance runner. He goes, these guys are like 135 pounds, which ultimately led me to get down to that weight, because he stuck in my head. Mm-hmm. And he's like, have you ever, experienced like, holding your breath till you pass out? I said, why would I do that? He goes, well, I do that with a lot of the athletes I train to show that it was kind of like the Mahalik thing. How bad do you want that breath?
Right.
How much can you push your body?
Right.
Will you push it to death? Because that's the only way you're going to be the best. And he said, try it. And he made me do it. And I don't know if I actually really passed out, but I came close, and I pretended I did because I thought at this point I was a little weirded out by the whole situation. But regardless of what his motivation was, whether he was some kind of weirdo or something like that, or really did have my best interest in my heart, he did show me something. And he showed me something that if you want to be a great athlete, no matter what sport you're going to do, you better be willing to die. And you said it earlier. Same thing with the you're going to feel like you died.
Yep.
And if you can go there first, he says you're not going to die. You're going to wake, you might pass out, but you'll wake up again. He goes, you're not going to die, but you have to be willing to go to that brink of that level. If you want to be your absolute best, because the guy who you're going to be running against next to you will go that far, and you will lose to him at the end if you want to be the best. And I never, it always stuck in the back of my head that what he said to me and what he did for me, and that encouragement, because I kind of had lost my, I was a very confident younger guy, and I kind of lost my nerve a little bit. I think once my mom passed, because I was I'm Jewish. Jewish mothers are like, they do everything for their sons. They love their sons.
Right.
And so I think I felt like disillusioned with life a little bit, and I think he kind of refocused me and remotivated me a little bit. And I realized that I've been just coasting. I've been coasting on natural talent, you know, in soccer and all the sports I did. I was always good at everything, and I'm sure you were the same way. But I never really went home and practiced extra on the weekends. You know, I played with my friends, but I didn't take it seriously. And you know what? I said, I'm going to take this running seriously. And I became maniacal about it. And then when I switched from running the bodybuilding, I did the same thing. And it was all because of that thing that guy said to me, and it stuck in my head. And that's, if you want to be the best bodybuilder out there, and you guys are watching this show, you got to be willing to. And I don't mean recklessly dying. I'm talking about you need to be willing in the gym to push your body to the point where you're going to die, or you feel like you're going to die. You won't die, but you got to be able to feel that way. And if you're not willing to do that, whether it be on a contest diet or like John said, while you're training in the gym, you'll never be the best. You'll never be your best, you know.
And you'll always come up short. And you're not going to accomplish the objective. You know, I mean, the whole thing about going into a body, you know, I'm on this, you know, excellence kick now. I mean, and because if you're going to, my position is this: if you're going to extend the effort to get to some place, to do something, you should do it at the highest possible level that could be done. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. So if you're going to you're going to get up early, do whatever, pre-coffee, pre-workout, whatever, get to the gym before work or after work or whatever it is, and put in that effort. Don't half-ass it. You got to go there on a mission. And the mission is to fail. Right. So the thing is, though, it's the mental toughness that's required to go in there so when you're training and you're at rep number, you know, 11, and you want to do, you know, 15 is your imposed target, which is arbitrary anyway, but you should be going. I love when people say, how many reps? All of them. You do them all. You don't pick a number. You just do all of them. Right. So, you know, they might be within this range, but you don't leave any on the table. Okay. Right. So you do them all. That means that when you're stuck in this movement and your arm is not moving and your brain is saying move, that's when the training begins. Because I guarantee you, if you implement some strategy, if you focus, force, and suffer, you will get that extra rep. You'll probably get 2 more. But I see so many guys, especially these young ones with the tripods, training in the gym, and their whole thing is there's a number. They're going to 12 reps.
Yeah, but John, that's why you need a training partner, because if you're really serious about being a great bodybuilder, you need a training partner. Absolutely. And I want to preface what you said. If you're like my age, okay, or me, I'm done competing. I'm not competing. Right. For me, going to the gym is not about training to failure, because I don't want to get hurt. For me, going to the gym, getting to the gym, doing my workouts, whatever it is, 4 or 5 times a week. I go to the gym now that I'm back in a normal schedule, eating my meals, getting all my meals in, taking all my vitamins, doing all my health little protocols I have. That's my challenge now, because I'm not trying to set records in the gym. I'm not trying to put massive amounts of muscle. Yeah, I'm putting back muscle, and obviously I've definitely gotten bigger. People can see that, but I'm not trying to achieve something. You know, I'm not trying to get back on stage. So I don't have that mentality. So you have to kind of set your goal based on what your goal is. I mean, not everyone wants to compete. Some people just want to look good or lose weight or whatever the case may be. You know, for me, it's just getting back in my regimen of doing everything possible to be as healthy as I can and to look good. I mean, I want to look good.
Right. But I'm in that group too, and I push myself. Yeah. We push ourselves in other ways. But my message is to the young guys, the youngins coming up.
Young guys,
who want to be big, massive dudes and are frustrated with the process because it's not happening. Yeah. It's because, first of all, you're spending way too much time on Instagram. That's your first. You know, you want to hear what I heard today? A really good friend of mine from New Jersey who, you know, cut his teeth at Diamond Gym when Kemper owned it back in the day. Okay, that was one of the most hardcore gyms in not only hardcore in practice, but hardcore in mentality. Yeah. That was one of the most hardcore gyms in America ever. You have a rule there now: no cell phones. If you take out your cell phone during the workout, they throw you out. You're done. You're out.
That's awesome.
That's, to me, are you kidding me? That is the best rule I've ever heard being enforced right now in a gym is no fucking cell phones.
You know what, John? You know what? If you don't have the mental fortitude to be able to go to the gym and put forth a maximum effort because you're too distracted with your phone, then that's on you.
Yeah.
Because you know what? I had a cell phone when I was competing the second half of my career. I mean, the first half there weren't no cell phones, but the second half I had a cell phone, and I would sometimes be on it a little too much. But I didn't miss sets, and I did not put forth maximum effort on sets. I did my workouts. You know what I mean? So it's not mutually exclusive. You know, the problem is that no one wants to suffer in this new generation, and I'm not talking about the elite guys. The elite guys in bodybuilding,
right?
I take my hat off. They look great. I mean, there's some really great talent. I think the best bodybuilders we've ever seen are probably on the scene right now. This could be one of the best Olympians of all time. So I'm not talking about those guys. Those guys obviously have found the way to motivate themselves, cell phone or not. But I'm talking about like you're talking about, there are people that get distracted with, you know, what they're going to post on Instagram, and they don't do a hard workout. They kind of they do what I call the beach workout, you know?
But what happens is that they foster a new problem, because they're not getting results because they're dicking around. They're not being serious. So the solution is more drugs. And it's almost comical to up the dose. You know, it's like they think it's cute. And it's fucking stupid. You're looking for another crutch to compensate for the fact that you suck. So what you got to do is not suck. You got to like figure out why you suck and stop doing the things that make you suck. And I guarantee you, if you look at it and figure out honestly, without lying to yourself, that you'll realize that the reason you suck is you're not being serious enough about this, because life itself right now is not very serious. So you're stuck in a very weird place in society right now where people are putting forward the most ludicrous concepts, and people are going along with it, from the wacko genders to the fucking planet, you know, migration is caused by climate change, all the fucking nutty shit that's going on now. You're mired in that. So it's an added, to me, it's an added layer. It's an added element that you have to dispel and get over to get to the core essence of why you are doing what you're doing. And if you understand how it works, you'll get a better grasp on why you have to do what you got to do to make this happen. And it's if the answer is not drugs, the answer is not more of, you know, supplements, then the answer is not some kind of secret that no one's telling you. It's not any of that. If you bring me your problem, that your lack of progress, I promise you I will distill it down to the fact that you're not working hard enough. And I'm sure
there is a possibility that some people just don't eat enough food, but
that's right. Yeah, I mean, you're not doing something enough. So it's either you're not eating enough, you're not suffering enough, you're not dieting enough, you're training hard enough. It's something.
I know people that train really hard in the gym and they just don't grow, and they know, they're like, well, I'm a terrible eater. I'm like, well, if you know you're a terrible eater, then fix it. I think some people find that actually eating when they're not hungry, and I will tell you, it is a tough thing to do, but I've mastered it. Eating when you're not hungry is probably harder than not training hard enough. In other words,
I'm not a morning
eater. Swallow food if they're not hungry. You know,
you're right. It's terrible. I'm not a morning eater. I hate eating in the morning. I mean, now that I intermittent fast,
you can pour a shake down your throat if I told you your life depended on it. You know,
I mean, I just remember, and I vividly remember this stuff. I got the broccoli, the oatmeal, and the chicken or the fish or whatever it was, and I'm looking at it. I'm going, oh my God, I can't eat this. And I try doing it this. I try like making the oatmeal the dessert because I put sweetener in it. And then, you know, you can eat that last, but you got to eat the broccoli and the fish first, you know, and but there's no other way to do it. You know, I mean, yeah, you can throw the shake in, you know, whatever. But I mean, you still got to suck the shake down. I mean, I couldn't do that either. You know,
so, you know what? In the midst of my career, when I was at my height of my career, I could swallow anything. There was nothing that I couldn't just open my mouth and guzzle down my throat. It just didn't matter to me. It wasn't even an option, you know, that I would not do it. It was going down. That's it, you know. And so, but some people just can't do it. You know, I have a very big throat, which if you have a small throat, and that usually means you have a gag reflex that's very active. And a lot of people just throw it up right away, and they just can't hold it down. But I have a big throat, and I have and I stretched out my stomach enough, obviously, to get to hold a lot of food. And yeah, I became like a garbage disposal. That's what you have to do. Look, there's no excuse. If you want to do something bad enough, you'll do it. And we all know that. I mean, it's right. It's almost like we're saying what we're saying here today is almost like you all know that it's the right thing and you're hearing it, but yet it's hard to implement it on a daily basis. Just like it's hard to implement. I mean, we've been doing since 2006. John and I have been doing, internet content since 2006. It almost sounds unbelievable when you think about it, right?
It does.
Nonstop, never missing, never missing a week, never missing. Almost daily. I mean, we have daily content. More than one video every single day on RXMuscle. So, I mean, think about doing anything that long, and you know what? It's because I have the mentality from bodybuilding. I would never miss a meal. I would never miss a workout. So how can I miss putting up a video? I mean, there's people out there depending on it. You know what I mean? They want to see these videos. So I got to put them up. But if you want to be good at anything, you have to have that mentality that you're never going to miss. And, you can recreate yourself, but at the same time, you have to have that. I'm not going to let anyone else outwork me in anything you do in life.
But there's a caveat to that. The caveat to that is difficult to accept, but it's the truth. And that is, this thing that we do is not for everyone.
No,
it's just not. You may not be cut out for it. I mean, there's people who are not cut out for this genetically, mentally, physically. They're not cut out for this. And you can force the issue. You can try, and I'm sure you're going to end up better than if you didn't. But to actually be a bodybuilder, a competitive bodybuilder, if that is your goal, you have to be realistic in whether or not you can actually stand the chance of achieving it. This is just not for everyone. Some people can't do it. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. That doesn't mean that you're any less of any kind of human being or person or whatever. It just means that you've chosen something that you don't agree with, that is not agreeable to you. So you got to pick something else. Still go to the gym. Still work out.
There's probably something wrong with us, John. That to have the mentality that we have of never missing and do. I'm sure there's something. Your father could probably psychoanalyze us, the psychiatrist, and tell us what's wrong with our. But we obviously there's something that doesn't work right in our brains. But that's what makes us good at what we do. So
well, I think was it Jay Cutler who said if you're a bodybuilder, you got to screw loose.
Yeah, of course. You have to.
Absolutely, you got to screw loose. And it's almost a badge of honor to not to be cut out for this. I mean, that almost makes you a more complete human being that you can't be a bodybuilder.
Patrick Bet-David was saying, I forget who he was talking to. I was listening to an interview with him, and he was on some other podcast, and they were interviewing him, and he was saying, it's interesting, but if you talk to like 95% of the MMA fighters that are out there, and you ask them if they were bullied as kids, like almost every one of them has been. And that's what got them into fighting, to learning how to fight to begin with.
Right. Absolutely.
It altered it was the environment that altered, what they wanted to do with the rest of their life because of that.
That's why I got into bodybuilding. I was a fat, picked on kid, a fat bullied kid. And so, what else is a fat bullied kid going to do?
Right.
You're going to go to the gym and learn karate. I mean, that's it's like a normal fix to that.
Right. The funny thing is, I don't even know what got me into, but I just loved watching the Rocky movies and Rambo, and I was just enamored with the Incredible Hulk with muscle. Like I just thought that muscle was going to be my solution to all my problems. And
I thought it was.
Muscle gives you a lot lot in yourself,
It sure does.
You lack confidence in yourself for whatever reason.
It's the image, your self-image.
Yeah, I felt much more confident, muscular.
Absolutely. Muscles are
now
cool.
as I got older and I became a wise ass, I realized that intellect is way more confidence boosting than muscle. But people do perceive you differently when they see muscle,
Yep, absolutely.
Even now when I walk into like a place, and I have veins and stuff like that, and they're like, people definitely treat me differently. A lot of times people recognize us from the show, and everything like that. But you know, they see that you work out and you can take care. You know, I probably look more like an MMA fighter now than I do a bodybuilder, but they recognize that you're in superb athletic condition, and so that all of a sudden you're perceived as a different person. You're not perceived as some weak person. You're not perceived as someone who can be taken advantage of, that kind of thing. And so I do think muscle gives, you know, a lot of people confidence that don't have that. And you know, for men and women, not just men, you know.
And especially for young boys who are struggling with body image and self-confidence issues. And that was my issue. I was a fat kid. So, you know, when you're fat and picked on,
even young boys who want to become young girls. Did you see that? Not the segue, but did you see this Canadian powerlifter set this powerlifting record in the women's division? She's a transgender, and in Canada, you don't even have to be on hormone blockers, John, to compete with the women. You can just say I feel like a woman. You know, I relate to being a woman, and she broke the world record, the total bench press, deadlift, and squat by 400 pounds. 400. God, she beat the record. So, I mean, obviously the female lifters are outraged, which they should be. It's a disgrace. It's almost embarrassing to be a part of the sport. If I were the person who competed, I would be mortified. I would go hide in a hole someplace. But they're not, because people don't care. They'll take a trophy no matter what. Oh, I'm the best. I'm the best. I'm a woman today. You know.
What sad commentary on yourself, right?
Right.
That if you suck so bad at something that you have to go put on a fucking dress to elevate your standing in that sport, that is sad, man. That is absolutely. And not only is it sad on the part that it's just indicative of what a terrible person you are because of that choice that you make, but to do so in taking it away from its rightful owners, the real women who compete, and ruin their sport. You're ruining their sport for your idiotic self, deprecated image that you have of yourself. And so your solution to your problem is to fuck up somebody else's life.
It's funny thing is, you don't see Matt Kroc, which is now Janae Marie Kroc. You don't see her competing, you know, in female powerlifting, because she knows that she will set every world record. You know, she knows that even though she likes being a woman, you know, she used to be a guy. I'm friends, you know, with him, her, you know, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet and one of the nicest girls you'll ever meet when she turned into a woman, you know. She knows I'll never compete with the women because it's just not fair. If I want to be a woman, I'm going to still compete with the men, you know, because that's just what I want to do.
And the thing is, that's a great advocate from Caitlyn Jenner, whatever, Bruce Caitlyn. Okay, that they believe that it's wrong. Okay, so I mean, so here you have an Olympic gold medal athlete. You know, siding with what is right. And I don't understand why these organizations are so chicken shit that they're so worried about the optics or the backlash or whatever from a minuscule fraction of a percentage of people that this is relevant to, that they will cave to this degree that an entire federation is disgraced by it.
You know, it's funny because Patrick, I was listening in the same interview I was listening to earlier with Patrick Bet-David, and he was talking about how, you know, young people are the most liberal-minded, like, group, right, in society, because they're young and they're open-minded and they like to do rebellious things. He's like, those people don't need to be taught about boys giving boys blowjobs and transgenderism. They're already accepting of that. The people who have to become accepting of it are the older people, because those people are more rigid and conservative. As you get older, you get more conservative. He's like, so in school, they shouldn't be shoving that shit down their throat, okay? Because it could influence people into doing things that they really weren't ever going to do before, because they're brainwashed by it. He's like, people our age, he goes, should be more, should be being subjected to education as to, hey, we have to be a little bit more open to the idea that, transgender people are a real population and we have to give them equal rights and stuff like that. But because you're not going to change my mind or your mind or any other 50-year-old's mind about, what their sexual orientation is, because we've already, established that. So he said the problem is that you're influencing young people that are influenced by anything. And, the education system is, molds the future of our country. And so I thought it was a pretty interesting, dynamic to say, you know what, we got it backwards. We should, that maybe there should be more religious, stuff in school to make people more spiritual when they're younger. And then when they get older, if they get too conservative, we can say, hey, look, you got to have a little bit more, understanding for all these other populations of people and be more, understanding of them.
There has got to be a dismantling of the education system, because, and there's evidence of this coming to fruition, has now out in the open in the public. And you can take, for example, the Bud Light fiasco that just happened. Okay. The Bud Light fiasco is the fault of a snowflake executive who was put in a position of power in the company, whose whole basis and rhetoric is on this woke ideology.
Yeah.
Okay. So where does this come from? Right now, today, and you can use this person as an example. It starts in kindergarten. Okay. All through grade school, through junior high school, through high school, through college, through graduate school, they are indoctrinated by these institutions in under this guise of wokeism. They're being taught, critical race theory. They're being read stories by drag queens. They're infiltrating queer, non-binary, gender, dysphoria all over the place. And it's a common thread now that runs through school from kindergarten through graduate school.
Right.
So what do you get? At the end of the road, you have a Wharton School of Business graduate who, on her first stab at a corporate decisive move, tanked a 130-year-old company. Okay, so that's what you get. So now, if this person had gone through a school system that didn't stoke her brain in woke ideology and fuck her up for life, there's no way that she would have been at that position as a graduate of the Wharton School of Business in charge of a vertical of a 130-year-old company would ever in a million years have made such a stupid fucking decision than to give a mentally ill drag queen her own can of Bud Light. So that's what you get. So
it's definitely a lesson to be learned, right?
Absolutely. That is what you get. Now, do you want the corporate world? Do you want your stock market, investments to be affected by this fucking lunatic? Or do you want somebody that's got a grasp on reality and understands the tenets of business and that knows how to run a company? Not a woke company, but a company whose main focus is profits, because that's why you invest in them. So to understand the demise of Bud Light is to understand that as an example of what is going to happen across the board if we don't stop indoctrinating our children from kindergarten through graduate school with this dumb, fucked up, woke, stupid ideology. But that's what we're doing. And Bud Light is and Target and all these other companies that are registering catastrophic losses in their market cap right now are 100% directly responsive to this idiotic woke ideology.
I was listening to Vivek Ramaswamy, one of the Republican candidates who's running.
Who doesn't?
Very smart guy. He wants to dismantle the whole education system. He wants to get rid of it. He says there's no reason for it. He wants to basically dish it out to all the other branches of the government. He goes, we don't need an education.
The Department of Education has done more harm to our children than any other, next to the CDC, than any entity in the federal government. Yeah, they're making kids wear masks again now.
I know.
Do you believe how insane this is? This is
where are they doing that now? Where are they doing that?
Several states. I was listening to Ben Shapiro when I was walking before.
Oh,
several school districts are now requiring, either heavily suggesting or requiring students to wear masks. And they're saying, N95 just for 10 days, until they're trying to do the same thing they did last time. They're trying.
I wonder if DeSantis will just be like nothing. I bet you.
Well, yes, because what's happening is some states have actually passed laws that is making it illegal to make mask mandates.
Really? Wow. Okay.
So the pushback is already starting. What you're going to see is cellular mitosis. Okay, you know how they go like this.
Yeah.
Right, the gene in the cell. That's what's happening in America right now. So you're getting people who are fleeing blue-controlled states who want to put your kids back in masks and 6 feet apart and all that other bullshit that was a total fucking scam before that affected absolutely nothing. Do you know that there's a whole population of children and a whole segment of children right now who lisp because the mask coverings prevented them from being able to learn language? So they all have a lisp now because of the fucking mask. And these idiots want to put them back in masks. I don't think there's one. I don't think there's one fatality of a child under 7.
But John, all these studies have come out to show that they didn't even work, the mask. And so the fact that they would go back to it is almost like idiotic. I don't know. I don't even know. I can't even think of the adjective I want to use, about
they are so scared. They are so scared by this. The media has frightened them so much that they're willing to bet their children's developmental years on implementing a device that says right on the fucking box it comes in that it doesn't work. It says it right on the box. On the box. It says is not effective for containing the spread of COVID-19. It says it in black and white. Yet the government wants to force you to wear them, force your children to wear them who have absolutely zero, susceptibility to this disease. It's close to zero as you can possibly get. And this is what they're trying to do to our children. Now, this is where the retard fucking soccer moms who didn't like Trump are going to come out of the woodwork because they're all mama bears at heart, and they are not going to put their kids through this again.
No, not again. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Shame on you. Exactly.
Well, we'll see. We'll have to see what happens. I hope we motivated some people, John, to get their butt onto their contest diet, stick to their goals, not cheat, not fool themselves. And you know what? If you have a coach, be honest with them. If you did have a bad weekend and you did eat something you shouldn't have, or you had a mental breakdown, share it with your coach, because we make our decisions based on what we see in the data that you send us every week in the photos. So if you're not giving us the data that we need, then we can't give you the right advice. And so it's important to have that very honest. Your coach basically is like a psychiatrist for you, or a psychologist.
Right. What, and you can't lie to them. You got to quit lying. And
what?
You got to quit lying. Don't lie to yourself, and don't lie to your coach. But most importantly, don't lie to yourself. It's black and white. Cookie, no cookie. It's no cookie. That's the right answer. It's don't cheat. No matter what happens, no matter what's in front of you, no matter what the challenge, no matter what, make the right choice. It's up here. You can do it. Make the right choice. Don't make the wrong choice. Because if you make the wrong choice, you got to come back to us and you're going to have to deal with it. Just make the right choice, right?
And on those very wise words, we're going to wrap up today's show. Thanks for joining us for another edition of Rips and Rants. I'm Dave Palumbo with John Romano. We'll see you again next week.